So last day we started open addressing where all the elements were supposed to store inside the table only. That means your restriction is the table size has to be at least as large as the number of keys to store. That is the restriction. Now in that case, there might be still kind of collision, that is your hash key value, whatever hash key value we have calculated, that slot is already booked. So in that case, to find the empty slot, the process of finding that empty slot is called the probing. And the sequence, that is, suppose first I am trying this slot, then I am trying this slot, then I am trying say this slot. After that I got this slot and it is empty, and now I can store here. So in the probe sequence, this will be the 0th probe. Then say this one is the say okay, 0 1. Then this is 2. This is 3. So at the 4th time we may get the empty slot. So probe sequence will be all these tries. Okay. So here in case of chaining, as you didn't have to find empty slots, we dealt with that with the same hash function for the same key, right? So maybe if k1 and k2 are not equal and h of k1 and h of k2 are equal, then for chaining it was not a problem, because in that case all the elements were linked to the same slot and a chain will be there. But here how do we find whether if even though all these two elements may be mapped, may have the same hash key values, but they are not stored in the same position, right? Maybe they will be stored some distance apart. Then how do we identify that where this say k1 was stored before? It is in the HK1 position, but HK2 is not in the HK1 position, it is some distance away. So it may be this is position of HK1 plus some distance D. But how do we find that it is stored in this position? Any idea? Have you
Either we can store that distance
by distance. So only H and key value, that will not be enough, right? We need something else along with that. So that is the probe number. So in case of this probing, we need this. The H function will take the key value along with the probe number, say n. Maybe n I have used before. In that case I will use D. This will be my probe functions arguments or hash functions argument. So here the k is the key value and this D is the probe number. Okay. So when you give say h of k2, this k2 is stored in h of k1 plus t, this location. That means if when you want to access that element, you need to give the function k1 and d, these two values. If you give these two values, then you can collect the data from them. Okay, so another restriction will be there for this probe number. So when you design the hash function, for the same hash function and the same key, this h of k, say if I start with 0, h of k1, h of k2, In this way, this is the 0 means the first trial, 1 is the second trial, 2 is the third trial. In this way, how many number of trials can there be? Total number of slots in the hash table. If total number of slots is m, so it is k into k comma m minus 1. So this is the total possibilities of probing. Now this has to be a permutation of 0 to m minus 1. If this is not a permutation of 0 to m minus 1, then what will happen? Even if you give different probing number, but you may get the same slot. Got it? If you give different number, you should get different slots. So for that, to ensure that this sequence HK0, HK1, HK2, this probe sequence has to be a permutation of 0 to m minus 1. That is the uh, any kind of ordering of the slots. Obviously, this to make it a permutation of 0 to m minus 1 means all the numbers has to be equally likely again. So if you try arbitrarily, this may not happen. So for that case, there are normally 3 or 4 kinds of hashing functions that are used for this probing. One is linear probing. Linear probing is the most easiest one, like I used here, this one. For linear probing and for all other probing also, when I use this, say h of k equals to something, h of k equals to say k dashed, okay, but this k dashed I am getting after applying h dashed over k plus some value, say I, or say I, this with mod n. This value over mod n, that will give you this k dash, where k dash is the final slot for your key under linear probing. As this is a linear function, we call it linear probing. And this h dash k, that is the hash function for k, the original hash function, after which you are using the distance to make it available, like make the slot empty for it. This function is called the auxiliary hash function. So it is called auxiliary hash function. So here basically, although we are getting the output in terms of h, but there is another inbuilt function which is working on behalf of it. And one linear function, equation is there, which is adding some kind of distance to this auxiliary hash function's output value. Okay, this is linear probing. So if it is linear is there, then similarly quadratic can be there. Quadratic probing. Quadratic means what?
Depending on square.
Depending on square. So we need something which will be squaring. So here hk is h dashed k plus c into I square plus c, okay, let this be c1 c2 I mod n. So here what we are doing? we are using again, okay, this I is our number, this 0 1 2 3, these are the numbers which is denoted here by I. So here I belongs to 0 to m minus 1, and in this case C1 C2 are constants. So here what you are doing, you are using auxiliary function plus square over this prob number plus something of some linear part we are adding. So as it is square, so it is quadratic. Now in both the cases there will be some kind of problem. What will be the problem? Here, if you just like in the previous example, here I was doing linear probing only. Just like I was trying for every distance. If it is linear probing, then what will happen? You increase the value of I with, first it is 0, that means directly h dash k, that you will try. If it is not available, then 1, that means the next slot, then 2, then the next after that. In this way you will continuously try for the consecutive slots. So consecutive slots will be getting filled up in a sequence. So that means there will be a problem of primary clustering, that is primary clustering, where long runs of consecutive slots will be filled together. So when you try something which is like say your keys are not sorted, in that case maybe some keys are there which will come, which has come very late, but which is supposed to be mapped to this same hash key value. In that case, what will happen? You have to traverse the whole length to come to the empty slot, maybe that is at the end. So this kind of problem will happen with linear probing. So here primary clustering happens, that is long runs of occupied slots. In case of quadratic probing also, clustering again happens. Here also it is I square, means I, when we fix one value of I, this I square also, it will increase in some order, right? So here also some kind of clustering will happen, but this clustering is not exactly like long runs together. You might be like, if it is say 0, then okay, after that 1 means first slot. Then if C1 and C2 they both are, I am taking 1, then in that case what will happen? It is I equals to 0 means this will be the 0. I equals to 1 means this will be 1 plus 1 2, right? Then if we take 2, then it will be 4 plus 2 6. So 0 2 6, even numbers are getting filled up. So in such case, if one number again or one key is there for which the hash function is set, hash value is mapped to 2, then it will be mapped here. It may try again for 6, that is already occupied. Again try for 8, that might be already occupied. So some kind of consecutive runs of uh, occupied slots that might happen for quadratic probing also. This is called secondary clustering. So both linear probing and quadratic probing suffers from some kind of clustering effect. So they are not at all good as random hash functions. Obviously, this, if you use this linear kind of linear or quadratic, whatever you are taking, these are very simple functions. That's why they are not good enough for this probing sequence. So after that, another function came that is called double hashing. Here, instead of single auxiliary hash function, two hash functions were taken, and h of k is taken as h1 of k plus I into h2 of k. So first you try with, when I equals to 0, you try with h1k. If it is empty, then that is fine. If it is not empty, then you choose another hash function and calculate the hash key value over that. That value multiplied with I, you add with the first value. Then that might be a random number, because both of this h1 and h2, they are supposed to be random number generator. So here the distribution of the key values over the slots will be almost random and almost ideal to the situation. So this double hashing is almost ideal if h1 and h2 are chosen properly. Okay, another hash function is there. So this double hashing, quadratic probing, linear probing, all these are only for open addressing. Now in case of this our collision resolution through chaining, in that case also we need some hash function, right? But how that hash functions should be, we have not discussed about that. So another kind of hashing criteria, hashing function is also there, that is called universal hashing. Universal hashing, and mostly this is used if you need some kind of standard, or your hashing has to be more secure, then all these previous schemes will not be strong enough, not even double hashing. So in that case, the only solution is using universal hashing. In case of universal hashing, you are given a family of hash functions. So H is given, this is a family of hash functions. Family means what? Means some hash functions which are similar in nature, but they are, suppose I give a function like this, say st plus 1 equals to st a into st plus b mod c. This is my hash function. Okay, so if this is my hash functions, here st means it depends on the previous hash value, and here I didn't use this k, right? So somehow I have to use incorporate k. Anyway, say this is a into k, ak plus b mod c, where k is my input variable. So this one is input variable, but a, b and c, they are some fixed constant. So fixed for one round. So if you keep on changing these values of a, b and c, your structure of the equation is same. But while you change the value of a, b and c, you will be getting different outputs. So this kind of functions are called family of the same type, or like they belong to the same family. See, just like you may have heard of this machine twister family, linear congruential generator. This is one kind of family of generators. Then XOR family is there. machine twister, PCG, then Zor family. These are some kind of family of random number generator. Okay, that means they follow the same kind of operation, but when you give different variable, different value to the constants, you will get different value as output. Okay, that is how it is supposed to be. This is called family, but I'm not going to use this as my universal hash family. Okay, universal hash family has a specific structure that we will discuss later. Now, in case of universal hashing, what happens is you are given a set of hash functions, that is your hash family. Now, when you need to map the set of keys to some slots, you choose over this set of hash functions. So, say this H is a set, some elements are there, you pick one of them randomly, pick any age from age uniformly at random, then using this age you you find the hash key value. So using this age, find age of k for your key k. So when you choose when you have two different keys, it might happen that your hash function itself become different. Then it is likely that your hash key values will be different. But even if your two have even if your age is same, then your key values are different. So it might have that K1 and K2 will be different. K1 and K2 different, same age, but K1 and K2 different. This might be one case. Another case is different age and keys are different. Right? So as we are choosing uniformly at random, in both the cases, the probability of collision becomes very less. And that's why universal hash family or universal hashing is the most versatile and or most appropriate hashing technique. So how do we? So here I have a universe of function u like before. So u is my universe with this size like that equals to m. M is my number of slots, right? And I have v, which is this set 0 to m minus 1. Now this family of hash functions is h is from u to v. This family is called K universal. So H is called K universal if probability that h of x1 equals to h of x2 equals to h of xk if I have k number of different keys, that is less or equals to 1 by m to the power k minus 1. So what does it mean? If you have different keys, then choosing two keys and taking some hashing function from the universe and mapping the hash key value, that in that situation the probability of collision will be at max total number of hash function divided by total number of slots. That is, if you have, say, here the universe, the hash family has size of h is this and my number of slots is n, then this will be my probability of collision. In that case, that family is called a universal hash family. So it is just like they are good as your uniform random number generator, or like that previous condition that we have discussed last day, SUHA, simple uniform hashing, that is also similar to this universal hash family. But in case of universal hash family, we are not saying that, we are not imposing some kind of assumption. Here there is no assumption. We are just constructing some realistic function with some condition that this probability value is matching or not, that only we are constructing. We are not assuming anything. Okay, so when you have k universal hash family, in that case, if you take, say, instead of k, if it is 2, then what will happen? If it is 2 universal, then probability of h of x1 equals to h of x2, this will be less or equals to 1 by n. That means what? It is uniformly random, right? Even if two keys are there, the collision probability is less or equals to 1 by n. Any slot you can pick up at random, uniformly at random, and that will be the probability of collision. There is one stronger notation to this, that is called strongly universal, strongly k universal, strongly k universal. In that case, this is probability of pairwise event, that is h of x1 equals to y1 intersection h of x2 equals to y2, h of xk equals to yk, where all these x1 to xk are your key values, and this y1 to yk, they are from this v. This is equals to 1 by m to the power k. So this is pairwise independence. In that case, the hash family is called strongly k universal. Okay. So similarly, for strongly 2 universal, what will happen? Strongly 2 universal, it will be probability of h of x1 equals to y1 intersection h of x2 equals to y2. This will be equals to 1 by n square. So called pairwise independent hash function, and this one is called random hash function. So when we choose some hash family from the or some hash function from the two universal hash family, that will act as good as the simple uniform hashing criteria. Okay, so when we talk about chaining, we need to choose from this two universal hash family. But you may not agree with my claim. In that case, we just have to see, if we use two universal hash family, how will be the access time. So say I take this event that h of xi equals to h of xj. This event means a collision has happened and this xi and xj are mapped to the same slot. Now say this event is indicated through xij and indicator variable. So we have to calculate E of xij. E of xij is what? I am taking two universal hash family. So E of xij is less or equals to 1 by m, as h is two universal. Now total number of collisions can be total number of collisions that will be x equals to sum over all possible xij. Now what do we do? This xij varies from 1 to n. Okay. So E of x will be sum over all ij. E of xij, this is E of xij, we know this is ij 1 by m. This is less or equals to, right? Now I can write it hopefully as less or equals to 1 by m, n into n minus 1 by 2. Do you agree? That is less than n square by 2m. I mean, choosing this value for a particular reason that we will understand. So expected number of collisions becomes less than n square by 2m. Now let us apply Markov's inequality. By applying Markov inequality, what you can get? X greater than, say, x probability of x greater than equals to, say, n square by m. This will be less or equals to E of x by this n square by m, that is half, right? So that means the if you take this as your range, then the probability of getting the value of x more than that will be less than half, or in another way we can say that, say we have the chain length as y. Say the chain length is y. So chain length is y means inside y at least yc2 number of collisions has happened. So at least yc2 number of collisions. I made collision mistake here. So if this number of collisions has happened, now again we try with what is the probability of getting the chain length to be more than n square by n. So that will be probability of yc2 greater than equals to n square by m. This will be less or equals to this one. This will be less or equals to the total number of collisions probability, that is probability of x greater than equals to n square by n, that is less or equals to half. Now yc2 means what? Y into y minus 1 by 2, right? So that is y square minus y by 2. So can you simplify it a little bit? That is probability of y is greater than equals to, okay, I need to do some steps in, y square greater than equals to 2n square by n. It is lesser or equals to half. Now if for our consideration, if we take size of n and m as equal, in that case what will be this? So if n equals to m, that is number of keys and number of slots are same, in that case what will be my chain length? So in that case probability of y greater than equals to, okay, y square greater than equals to 2n square by n is equals to half. That is probability of y square greater than equals to 2m less or equals to half, or probability of y greater than equals to root 2m is less or equals to half. Now this is an important result that we are going to use while we design the perfect hashing. So this result you remember, result to use in perfect hashing. Okay, what does it mean? It means if you choose n equals to m, then maximum chain length will be at most root 2m with a probability less or equals to half. And this result will be using in perfect hashing, which avoids all kind of collision. So when we go for perfect hashing scheme, there is no chance of collision at all. And so randomized algorithm means we want to make it perfect and more perfect. And this perfect term associated with hashing is indicating that ultimately that is the key which will like it will give you some kind of storage, extra storage space will be required, but still you can avoid the hashing, right? Avoid the collision, which is like hashing will be in order of one time, obviously. And another thing that you have may have noticed that this hashing, how you are going to have the chain length, all this calculation is independent of the key value or the distribution of keys. Nowhere we have used the distribution of keys. So that means this chain, when we use universal hashing, the chain length becomes independent of the distribution of keys, and hash function is also, or and choice of hash function, that is which hash function we are going to choose from the universal hash family, that is also independent of the distribution of keys. Same is for choice of hash function from the universal hash family. Okay. Any kind of confusion you are supposed to have? Nothing? No question? I'm surprised. That means you didn't listen. Okay. Understood. What happened to you?
No, ma'am, we're listening.
Okay, I will try to understand what is happening, because hashing is like this kind of, this is just start. You will be having lots of such kind of calculation in hash. And the thing is, why I am doing this calculation, that you are supposed to ask me, that why you did this. Like here, some of this, share it again. But you didn't ask anything, so I'm surprised. So see, this one I did it as n into n minus 1 by 2, but I could have directly wrote it as n by m, right? Why I choose this? You didn't ask me. N by m is obviously less than n square by 2m. That is okay. But why this? So I give you as your task to find and tell me. As you have not asked any question, now it is my question for you.
Yes, ma'am, we try it out and find out.
Okay, this is one thing, and another thing is I am saying that this chain length will be independent of the distribution of keys. So you find the, what should you find? Find the chain length when K is inside the table as well as when K is not present. This is your task. If you read the book, probably you can find it easily, but still. Okay, if you don't have anything to ask me, then I am going.
Yes, ma'am. We have Viva in a while. So.
Okay.